Chapter 18. Harbin, Don't Make Me Cry. Yang Su got into a university in Mudanjiang. I went to see him off before he left. We'd been close friends for years, and parting ways inevitably stung. I told him, "Don't worry, bro. You leave first, and I'll head out soon after." Half a month later, my admission letter finally arrived, and I let out a long sigh of relief. My luck wasn't all that bad after all. I packed my luggage, ready to start my college life in Harbin. 2 days before leaving, I headed back to school to bid farewell to old Jia and old Zhang. They smiled and said, "You're the last one to leave. Take it easy on drinking once you're in college." Strangely enough, I'd been eager to get away while I was still at home, yet now that I was truly about to leave my hometown where I'd lived for nearly 20 years, my heart ached with reluctance. I promised them, I'll come back to visit whenever I can. They were the best teachers I'd ever known, a thought I still hold true to this day, many years later. I remember the day I left for the train station with my luggage. My father saw me off, and my grandma broke down in tears. I comforted her, saying I'd come home for vacation soon. I'd grown up by my grandma's side, and seeing her cry tore at my heart. I held back my tears until I stepped out the door. The moment I turned my back on her, my emotions crumbled and tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Listening to my father's earnest advice, I wish time could slow down. The train pulled into the station and I boarded. Sitting by the window, I watched my father standing on the platform, his eyes glistening with tears. Why was my whole family so prone to crying? The train rumbled slowly forward. I stared out the window, whispering a silent farewell to my hometown. Harbin, here I come. I ended up staying in Harbin for nearly 6 years, so I'll keep this introduction brief. As the capital of Heilongjiang Province and one of China's top-tier cities, Harbin is a renowned historic, cultural, and tourist destination. Shaped by its unique history and geographic location, it boasts distinctive exotic charm, earning it nicknames such as the Ice City, the Pearl on the Swan's Neck, and the Moscow of the East. It was my first time in such a sprawling metropolis, and I stood dumbfounded the moment I stepped off the train. Crowds of strangers filled the streets, among them many tall-nosed Russian foreigners. I took a deep breath, breathing in the unfamiliar city air, far different from my hometowns. I murmured to myself, "You wait for me? I'm on my way." Since transfer applicants had no school shuttle service, I had to find the campus on my own. My admission address was listed as a location on Yi Road, a street I'd never heard of. I hailed a taxi. The starting fare was 9 yuan, shocking a small-town kid like me. Enough money to ride a three-wheeler around my hometown 4 times over. I gave the driver my address, and he frowned in confusion. "There's no school over there, is there? I've never heard of it." How was I supposed to know? It was my first time here, lost and unfamiliar. I insisted, "It's there. Just drive." Harbin was enormous, lined with towering high-rises easily over 20 stories tall. I was utterly awestruck. After a 20-minute drive, the driver pointed ahead. "That should be it." I glanced over and was stunned by the grand building, styled after Russian architecture with more than 10 floors. The campus grounds were spotlessly clean, not a single scrap of trash in sight. A 3-meter iron fence surrounded the perimeter, and the gatehouse looked like a military sentry post. 2 armed security guards, dressed like armed police, stood on duty at the entrance. I felt relieved, thinking I'd be attending a decent university. The only downside would be sneaking out at night. Climbing the fence would be a hassle, but that was a minor issue. Just as I waited for the taxi to stop, the driver drove straight past the gate. Confused, I asked why. He shot me a sideways glance and replied, "I can't stop at the military headquarters." I froze. That grand complex wasn't my university at all. It was the military command base. No wonder the guards were armed and standing rigidly on patrol. The taxi turned at the intersection ahead and finally came to a halt. "We're here," the driver said. I scanned the surroundings, confused. Where was the school? He pointed toward a shabby little building. I grabbed my luggage and stepped out, eyeing the rundown structure doubtfully. It looked like a leftover building from the early days after the founding of New China, eerily resembling the half-step inn I'd seen in the netherworld. The four-story building only looked like a college thanks to an out-of-place neon sign reading XX Academy of Fine Arts, Harbin Branch. There was no playground. The building faced a busy street lined with street food stalls, pancake vendors, counterfeit CD sellers, and people hawking cockroach repellent. Blaring from a shoddy speaker was the cheesy online pop song Mice Love Rice. I walked to the entrance, where various mismatched signs hung on the wall: Community Senior Center, Calligraphers Association, and other odd titles. It took me ages to spot the tiny plaque for the XX University Experimental Base. This must be the registration office, I thought, stepping inside. A sign reading Freshman Reception hung on the door at the end of the corridor. I knocked and entered, where a female faculty member greeted me. The shabby surroundings already told me this branch campus was far from reliable, but I no longer cared. I'd coasted through high school just for a diploma, and college would be no different. My only reason for coming to Harbin was to stay by Du Feiyu's side. Whether the school was good or not didn't matter. It was still officially accredited by the state. After paying my tuition, the teacher led me through 2 more streets to the student dormitory. This so-called dormitory was also an outdated old building from the 1950s. A concrete red star marked with the faded year 1953 sat atop the roof, confirming its age. I brushed off my disappointment, telling myself it didn't matter. I climbed to the 3rd floor, where countless dorm rooms lined the corridor. Laughter and music echoed from behind closed doors. The teacher handed me over to the dorm supervisor and left. The caretaker asked if I preferred a large dorm for 12 people or a smaller 4-person room. I chose the smaller one. She unlocked room 313 and told me 3 roommates had already moved in. I nodded, dumped my bedding on an empty lower bunk, and pulled out my phone at once to call Du Feiyu. She answered, her tone cold and distant. "What do you want?" Undeterred, I said happily, I'm in Harbin now. When are you free? I'll come see you." She let out a cold huff. "Don't bother. Let's break up." "What? Break up?" I was dumbfounded, unable to believe my ears. I'd struggled through so much just to follow her to Harbin, and she dumped me on my very first day. Even drama shows weren't this cruel. She must still be mad about what happened on the train. I needed to explain. I'd done nothing inappropriate with Guanyu that day. Yet, how could I possibly explain that Guanyu had simply fallen asleep on my shoulder? Even I knew how ridiculous that sounded. I stammered, "Baby, listen to me. That day was all a misunderstanding." "There's no need to explain," she cut me off sharply. Her voice turned icy. "I have a new boyfriend. Don't call me again." A surge of sorrow and anger washed over me, reminding me of my mother's sudden departure. This was too much. Whether she was truly seeing someone new or just trying to hurt me, her words were unforgivable. I asked bitterly, "Why are you doing this? Do you have any idea what kind of rundown school? I came to just to stay with you." She laughed coldly on the line, her voice sharp and ruthless. "I told you I hate all men. You're all the same. You betrayed me, and I'll get my revenge. Leave me alone and never call again." She cursed at me in the end, a vulgar word I chose not to write down. It was the first and last time she ever spoke to me with such cruelty. The call ended. In that moment, I was truly alone in a strange city, facing 3 long years of college by myself. Getting dumped on my first day of university was quite an infamous milestone. Life was absurd. No matter how hard you tried, you might end up with nothing. I laughed bitterly to myself, and tears spilled down my cheeks. I wiped them away. Misfortune never came singly, and my bad luck had arrived in waves, crushing me bit by bit over the past few months. Lost in melancholy on my bed, the dorm door swung open. A muscular young man with a buzz cut and no shirt walked in, freezing at the sight of me. He must have been one of my roommates. I stood up to greet him, introducing myself as the new arrival and asking for his help over the next 3 years. He had a bold, easygoing personality, his face dotted with acne that wrinkled as he grinned. I offered him a Changbai Mountain cigarette, which he lit at once. No problem. Bro names Li Xiaoqiang call me Changzi. I got here 2 days early. He yelled toward the corridor. Bao, Jinlong, new roommates here. Get back quick. He seemed friendly and approachable. Soon another guy wandered in from the next room with tan bronze skin and full lips that made him look foreign at first glance. Yet his thick northeastern accent, even more pronounced than mine, proved he was a local. Hey man, I'm Bao Jinlong. Just call me Bao Long sounds more chill. Perfect timing. Our dorm was one short. He was a witty, talkative guy, and I knew living with him wouldn't be lonely. The thought of loneliness made me homesick. I smiled and said, I'm the new guy. My treat tonight, let's grab some drinks.